Visionary leadership is crucial to the sustainable growth of our cities and businesses, as responsible leadership affects both the present and the future. This episode of the Visionary Leader Show on Future Cities Africa is with Leslie Ndawana, Principal Officer and Chief Executive Officer at the National Fund for Municipal Workers, a fund with approximately 23 billion of assets under management. Leslie, welcome. Give us a brief introduction to your role and career to date.
My role essentially is the Chief Executive Officer of National Fund for Municipal Workers. And that fund manages about 23 billion rands worth of assets that belongs to employees within the municipal sector. And we represent about 55,000 members who are employees of the local government. We believe our organization is crucial within the space of municipalities, although obviously it is a financial institution, but there are so many connections between the financial services sector and what we do within the local government space. So I've been in the financial services sector for more than a decade now, predominantly in the retirement funds consulting space, but also in fiduciary capacities. I was a trustee of a big pension fund within the financial services sector. I was in a similar position previously, but obviously of a smaller fund, but the principles doesn't change. And at industry level, I'm a director of Batseta Council of Retirement Funds, which is an organization that represents retirement funds in South Africa. And I was also involved in the Financial Sector Transformation Council, in one of their subcommittees that was working on reviewing the transformation scorecard for retirement funds sector.
What do you believe are the key characteristics of a visionary leader?
If we look at the current environment and we consider history also and how business today operates, for someone to be a visionary leader, you need to seriously consider sustainability of your actions and the sustainability of the organization that you're representing, and how that sustainability talks to society and the broader economy. So, for example, we cannot talk of visionary leadership and we don't have a conversation around diversity. And if we look at diversity, for example, it's not a color conversation. It could be diversity of ideas, it could be diversity of thinking, it could be diversity of race and religion, it could be diversity in so many ways. We can't talk of sustainability without having a conversation around inclusivity. We can't talk of sustainability without talking about fairness and equity. All those are elements that talks to visionary leadership. If we don't address those things today, we will still be having challenges that we could have addressed 10, 15 years back. Those challenges, will still have them 10, 15, 20 years down the line. So essentially, a visionary leadership should be looking beyond today. That's so critical. But another element is, as a leader or as a visionary leader, you must have passion for people. Everything that we do at the end of the day should be to impact the lives of people, making a difference in people's lives. So whatever you do as a leader, there must be a connection to saving the people. Then the other one talks to seeing challenges as an opportunity to provide solutions. There's so many challenges that we have currently across the spectrum. So as a leader, you must be able to see an opportunity to solve problems when you're confronted with a challenge. Then lastly, I would relate that to organizational culture. So whether you are in a municipal environment, whether in a financial services sector or any other sector or health, whatever it is, there must be a culture within the organization, within the team. For example, discussion around competence. If we get those that qualify straight from school, join an organization that has got a culture of competence, the mindset for that person 10 years down the line would be totally different. And he or she would know competence. And that's what then gets engraved in the person's mindset, and to the extent that becomes part of him or her, which we don't normally see across the spectrum, especially in the local government space. We also need to entrench the right values. So you as a leader first, you must have values that talks to you, and values that should relate to the organization that you are leading. And that must be understood by the value chain, the employees, your all the stakeholders, if in the municipal sector, the politicians, everyone within the ecosystem.
What are our public sector leaders currently not getting right when leading their municipalities and their teams? What needs to change, and how can change happen?
There's a disconnect between the community's expectations and what the municipalities understand to be what they must deliver. And when we talk about municipalities, for example, or leadership within the municipalities, remember the leadership doesn't in itself provide the services. It provides leadership. But it is the teams and the employees who provides the services. So many of the employees within the local government space do not understand why they are in the positions that they are. So, for example, if you ask a simple question like to a municipal employee, what do you do? The person who answer you like, I work in a workshop at a municipality. You can see there's lack of understanding. So in my view, the response to such a question, obviously it talks to how the leadership has conveyed the message of what the municipality does. So in an instance like that, the answer from everyone, if you should ask a municipal employee such a question, is we deliver services to communities. So this person understands himself as a person who works at a workshop, or as a person who works in a stores department issuing inventory, right? So you can see that person doesn't have an understanding of how his work relates to the broader a mandate of the municipality. And once there's no purpose and understanding of where you fit and how important is your role within the mandate or within the ecosystem, then it's just a job. Then you end up responding, I work in a workshop. So there now, the responsibility of the leadership is to make sure that every employee understand their role within the municipality for the purpose of the municipality to deliver its mandate and its purpose. And that's more now about clarification of the vision and the mandate and how that is communicated to employees. So that's sort of the disconnect that I see within that space. And obviously, we are customizing the conversation around local government, but it's the same in any organization. I think one of the solutions that we can look at, other than the right messaging, is having leaders of integrity within important roles, such that we regain trust of the broader business and societal level. And once there is trust, you'll be able to also bring in important partnerships to help you deliver the mandate that you may have as an organization or your objectives or whatever it is. And we actually know, given the space that we are now, that there is serious need for public and private partnerships, especially when it comes to delivery of services by local government. And that will affect everyone. If municipalities are not functional, businesses cannot be functional, the communities cannot be functional.
How do you think the role of a leader has changed, especially since the pandemic?
The point of departure there is that we should acknowledge that the business environment and leadership environment has become more complex, has become very fluid. It's a lot of uncertainties around the space. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of complexities within this space. You're just not sure of what to do. But more so, everything has become complex. And I think why so many leaders have failed. A lot of people confuse the word complicated and complex. Previously, leadership has always, been a very difficult space, but you were faced with complicated environments. But in a complicated environment, you can break down a big challenge into pieces and address those pieces in a systematic order or systematically. But in a complex environment, all the pieces of the challenges are moving at the same time. Then it's a challenge itself. If you create a solution today and you don't implement that solution within the next week, the challenge has changed. So you're now implementing a solution of something that doesn't exist anymore. So you need to be flexible, fast, creative, quick decision making, but very considered, in a very considered manner. And in a leadership role like mine or any other person in my position or in a similar position, your everyday job is to make decisions. And if you don't think and work fast enough, you will be the bottleneck to the success and progress of the organization and everything else that the organization is trying to achieve. You need to be very flexible, very agile, fast in your thinking, but at the same time, making well-considered and well-informed decisions, considering the challenge and the environment that you're dealing with.
How do you manage the complexity of your daily responsibilities, and how do you prioritize what is done first?
I've got a very strong support within the office of the chief executive. I must say, I trust the people that I work with. And I am able comfortably delegate responsibilities within the space. And the people that works within that office are competent people. So I can trust that the role, or I can trust that the responsibility that I've assigned to so and so will be delivered competently, on time, right the first time. So obviously, I look at the competence of each person and how I delegate responsibilities. In doing so, that takes away a lot of things that I could have done myself, which are now done by my team. But that leaves me now with those things that I must personally address, given their sensitivity, given the strategic nature of the task, and given the nature of that particular role. So that is sort of helped me so much. So it's in a nutshell, it's the competence within the office and how I delegate those responsibilities, and that I understand everyone's limitations and competencies and delegate accordingly. But more so, I trust the people that I work with.
It does sound like you are blessed with the perfect team. Unfortunately, this kind of trust does not exist everywhere.
It is a big challenge, and that's where much of the bottleneck comes from, whether it's in the private sector or in the local government. When you go further up the ladder of leadership and responsibilities, there are a lot of politics and political dimensions within your role as the leader, which you must manage. If we look at the local government space, for example, it's as in direct politics or political influence to the extent that no one trusts anyone. So the tasks must wait until I come back. If it means I am off for 1 week, things must wait for me until I come back after 1 week, because I don't trust anyone who is within the system, and I'm not sure what is going to come out of the process if the process is done in my absence. That's what we have seen mainly in local government. And that then creates a serious bottleneck. In the private sector, we have noticed that, something very similar, but where the organizations are weaved in such a way that there's a close connection between the leadership and the employees, and there's trust between the leadership and the employees, the results and impact of that organization would be totally different from the results of organizations that are riddled with politics, mistrust, and things like those. If you look at the growth, let's take a company like Discovery as an example. Their growth over the last 10 years has been phenomenal. And it's a period where every other company within the financial services sector was crying foul that the conditions are just not good for business. It sort of talks to the kind of leadership and the strategic decisions and direction that the leadership takes. I've just used Discovery as an example. There's so many that you can talk about.
Leslie, at the end of your role as CEO at the National Fund for Municipal Workers, how would you define your success?
For me, the success would be transforming the lives of the 55,000 members that we have in our books, their families, and the communities. And there are a couple of ways that we are actually thinking of achieving that. We've put together a strategy last year, which we are busy implementing. And some of the initiatives that came from that strategy, for example, if I can share with you, in a retirement fund setup, financial planning has been considered as something that is outside of the scope of a retirement fund. But we've taken a view that when you're looking at a person or when you're looking at a retirement fund member, you must look at that person holistically. For example, the narrow way that the retirement funds is being understood is that you are saving for retirement, and that's all. But if you look at a person holistically, and in some way it also assists in the saving. For example, if that person is in debt, it's a problem. We need to assist that person to get out of debt. We need to assist that person to organize his estate and estate planning. We need that person know how to budget. So essentially, we are taking care of that person's financial well-being, which will help his family and indirectly the community, right? So those are some of the initiatives that goes beyond the narrow way of understanding, which means we're thinking way outside of the box. We have recently introduced psychosocial support for our members and their families. We've roped in the services of clinical psychologists, occupational therapists, and if the emotional well-being of our member is not taken care of, that person at some point would be an emotional wreck. People commit suicide, and. Those are all societal problems that we must also commit as a good corporate citizen to solve. So that way, we will be impacting lives. So those are some of the elements that I would tick as successes in my space. But also using the mass that we have from an investment point of view. As I introduced the organization earlier, we said it has got 22 billion, or probably in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll be talking 30, 40 billion. But how does those investments create a feedback loop to assist the members in the society? How do we invest in such a way that our investments helps the community and society and economic development as a whole? So once that feedback loop is created and we've integrated our investments with economic development, for me, that's more success.
So this speaks directly to responsible leadership. Leslie, in closing, what is your vision for the future of cities? What would you like to see?
The future of cities should give us functional cities. I think that's more important for me than anything else. But also to integrate services and consider, if you look at where we are now as the world, the important elements like your climate change, issues of power, etc., etc. So when we do our urban planning, those are important elements that we must incorporate in our future cities for them to remain relevant and functional.
A big thank you to Leslie Ndawana for this insightful conversation on the Visionary Leader Show on Future Cities Africa.